Hello and welcome to Talking Heads. I'm Monty Squiggles.
And I'm Old Man Wolfy. So, we've done a bunch of episodes so far. We've covered the start of, what a conventions are, our first convention experiences. Hopefully by the time you're seeing this, you'll see footage from Dragon Con.
2017.
Yes.
It was a good con.
It was a great year. It was a great year. But
what comes after?
something we don't see covered a lot in these discussions, and you see lots of videos like
and how great the cons are. And don't get us wrong. They are great. You will have fun. You will enjoy yourself. And afterwards, you will break.
Yep. Post-con depression is a colossal pain in the ass. Sometimes it can be sufficient to actually shatter a man.
Yes.
And at the very, very least, it's the experience of going to a convention and you come back and the realigning of ourselves with the real world is problematic.
Yeah. Now, post-con depression, obviously, this is not a real medical thing. We're using it, as an analogy. So it's not like you're going to get some horrible neuroses from it. It's not that bad. But it is a real feeling that you can get to varying degrees depending on your con, depending on what you're coming back to. It could be as simple as just being a little down for a few weeks as you recover from your trip, or it could be, an existential break where you are trying to find meaning in life among the most muggliest people in existence. Good people, but muggles.
Now, we've covered that. We discussed that, what happened with Squigs here, briefly. One of the things is that it also correlates very, very much to the high and low thing. I mean, going to a convention can be a wondrous experience, and you're experiencing the world as most people really, really want it to be.
The world as you'd wish it was. That it never will be, but you still wish it was.
And then you come home. And there's always that kind of, I don't know, the wistfulness.
What am I going to do?
What am I going to do for the, you're prepping for next, usually a lot of people assuage it by prepping for next year. I'm going to have such a great time, I'm going to go again.
We start planning the next Dragon Con when we're riding home from the current Dragon Con.
Actually, I usually have plans in place for multiple Dragon Cons at a time. It's kind of my thing because, again, as we've discussed, Dragon Con in particular is a con you don't plan for casually. Or you can.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. No, the thing is, you will have a great experience. You can.
Well, it's not that you have a bad con, but if you really, really want to do Dragon Con, you need to treat it like you're going to Disney World because it's that level of both time and financial commitment.
Exactly. But the thing about post-con depression is that a lot of times the trick is how do you cope with the fact that that the experience, the group mentality of being immersed in fandom, coming out of the pool, so to speak, can be a little bit, it's, come back and you're down. I mean, the real world sucks.
It's not like you're a social pariah and you're leaving the only place that you can call home or you don't have other groups you can get together with.
Although in some cases
there are cases, but it's not always. So it's like, people will have friends who don't really get it, but they don't care. They're like, I'm glad you have fun.
But it's like some people, what's funny is that the experience is similar. People go to sleepaway camp. Sometimes when you go on a longer vacation, when you go on like a 2-week vacation, that coming home and that thing of crap, reality.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I come back from, and admittedly, it's funny because when I used to go to Dragon Con, and I used to go to every con, I would come back super, super pumped and full of excitement about next year. And that would last a couple of days. And then,
boom.
Yeah, the crash hits. And, people crash after these cons. And there are people who won't go on social media for days after a convention because they really just can't bring themselves to deal with, social media or people who didn't go to the con.
Right.
There are people who literally park themselves in whatever Facebook group is now for whatever convention you're going to and just hang out there to basically kind of keep the con spirit going.
To wean yourself off lightly.
But what's interesting is that I found that one of the things that I think people should try and do, this is just my own personal take on things, is the kind of mentality that you have in the con in limited degree can work in the real world. You can, sit next to somebody that you don't know. It requires a different level of buffering around it. But at cons, you're forced into small quarters by necessity more than anything else. But
right.
the thing about it is that, it's the thing that people should always take away from a con is that you try not to treat the real world as hostile.
Yeah.
Because the friendlier, we had a really, really great Dragon Con this year.
Oh yeah, it was the best one yet.
It's the best one yet. The experience left us drained. I will assure you that.
Well, it was a 2-week trip. We did a lot. It's a long drive back from Atlanta, even if we are stopping halfway.
Yeah, it's like
so that's going to be tough on you, no matter what you do. If you're traveling that far for a convention where it's not just a 45 to an hour drive, just the travel by itself is going to wear on you.
Exactly, and sometimes those travel experiences are enough to, even with the extra days we allotted. I came back exhausted, but not shattered.
Right.
Like I have in previous years, where I was stressing myself to the point of no return, which made the post-con depression even worse.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do to keep it from being quite such a force. Even though it doesn't last, it will go away. Like, at best, within a month, you will forget that it was there and it has been gone for you don't know, which is normal.
The other thing, there's also the fun part is we're discussing what happens after the con. There's also the nefarious con crud, which
don't be patient zero.
Yeah, don't be patient zero. Generally, the rule of thumb is that if you are sick as a dog, really either if you're going to go to con, hide in your room and don't come out. I didn't say that. That was mean of me. But the truth of the matter is that you put 10,000, you put 3,000 people in the same enclosed space for 3 days, and all sorts of diseases will start sprouting from the ether because it's just a matter of crowd. The crowd,
and
the influx of
certain
crowds.
Conventions, it's con crud in general, but you hear word about the PAX plague.
Oh yeah.
Goodness, one particularly bad year, Penny Arcade even did a series of comics on the PAX plague, which was hilarious. So it's there's only so much you can do to avoid this.
Some of that's unavoidable. Some of that is, they tell you to take your vitamin C before the convention.
Oh my God. I forget. It was one of our Zenkai cons.
Mm-hmm.
It's I have allergies, so I gotta deregulate the pseudoephedrines and all that kind of stuff. So I come back from the con. I'm not allowed to refill my allergy medications because I had reached the mystical limit because it's weird limit the way it works.
Right.
So I had no allergy medication in my system. Got con crud, and that turned into a full-blown sinus infection that lasted for about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
that was not fun.
The problem with post-con is that, one thing that you have to do is you have to post-con aftercare. So you have to deal with the doldrums of real world. It sucks. We try not to make it suck more than it has to. Try not to get. And
you can have little bits of your geeky self out in everyday life. Most people these days do. Even at work, you can do it. Even if you can't necessarily dress geekily, there are ways you can do it. And granted, you can't let your freak flag fly freely necessarily, depending on where you are. But, my job, it's they know. I tell them exactly where I'm going, what it is. They're curious. They ask. I wear, domo hats to work. I'm always in a top hat of some kind. I have Harley on my phone. They know I'm strange.
Yeah.
And they're endeared by it. So I'm endearingly strange, and it works. But it's not everyone has that easy of a working environment that they can be that way. So I still dress, business casual when I go to work. I only wear a t-shirt on Fridays, and it's, a company shirt. So it's no big deal. I can, I don't have to hide and lock away that side of myself for the rest of the year until the next convention I go to. I'm able to wear it, with pride, to a reasonable degree. When I'm not working, I can wear it even more. So that's one thing that really makes post-con depression not really a factor anymore if you don't have to then lock everything away.
Right, and that's one of the problems with... That was when you came back from that first Dragon Con.
Yeah, it's so at the time, for my first Dragon Con, there are multiple factors for this. One, first Dragon Con. Otakon is big. Otakon is not nearly as big as Dragon Con, and nothing anybody says is true. Will Otakon ever get that big? Sure, it's possible. But they are convention center cons, so it's very unlikely they'll ever get to 77,000 people. And that's what the last year's numbers was, somewhere around 77,000.
No, actually, this
year was 80,000.
Yeah, this year's 82.
82.
Last year's 80,000.
I don't care how
you
good...
went with 77.
Yeah, I don't care how good the convention center is, or how many other spaces there are around. There is no way a non-hotel con can host that many people. logistically, it's not really possible.
Yeah, I'm still kind of. I've always been kind of concerned. I've always been kind of suspicious of the numbers that you hear at. Like we had 140,000 people at New York Comic Con. I'm going.
Yeah, if you count all your everyone who only came on Sunday, everyone who only came on Saturday, if you count those numbers, sure, we had a total attendance of X. We had a total attendance of multi-day X. This day, it's like if you broke it down to what it was, then we believe their numbers a lot more. But they make it sound like it's that many people for the entirety of the con, and just the venue is not capable of holding that many people without breaking all the fire codes. So it's not even that the con's bad. It's just that literally they're not in a space that can do it. So I had never been to a convention this big, ever. So there's that wall I hit going in. It was a glorious wall, sure. But, and then I come back. I'm working, this is when I left my job of 5 years because I needed to move on. I was not making enough money to going forward. So it's that had to happen. But what I tried to go into was life insurance sales. And everybody who worked in my office, I'm not going to say this is the same for every office everywhere, but in my office, they were the most normal, ordinary. I mean, I hate to say muggle because people so often use it as an insult. It's like, I don't see it as an insult, but, in the books, it is an insult. Unfortunately, that's the best word we have. They're normies, they're muggles, but these people literally had no concept of anything beyond maybe what was on TV or the major movies. Like, they knew who some of the more well-known superheroes were. But, I mean, one of my coworkers I tried explaining steampunk to. And with steampunk, you can bring up Jules Verne and a whole bunch of other classic literature type stuff as an analogy saying it's like this, and she still couldn't get it. Great person, but when you go back, and it's, I couldn't really fly my geek flag there. I could have little things, but it's like that was business dress. I was in, suit jacket. So, I can't have little things that way, unfortunately. Maybe I could have if I really tried. But,
yeah.
And so I had to, when I was at work, it had to be completely gone. And I was doing a new job, not doing well at it. So, yeah, my post-con depression for that first Dragon Con, the high was extra high, and there's absolutely nothing to catch me.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
The other thing that was interesting is that some of the things that the weird transformative aspects of the convention that because this particular episode is not just post-con depression and it's also what happens after the con. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that this one was very, very socially more introverty, way more introverty before the con. Now, admittedly, he had been more. I mean, he says he was even further introverted before I met him, which I do not doubt. And having met him, I do not doubt in the slightest. But I will tell you that after Dragon Con, the first time I had ever seen I'd known him for a while. I've gone to Dragon Cons before.
You had gone to at least 2 or 3 Dragon Cons while I knew you before.
And I had never, in a million years at the time, thought you would have gone up to somebody and just started talking to them, and made immediate instant friends, who he's still friends with today. And the thing is that's very much a convention-y type thing.
Yeah, that's something that happens.
Really easy.
It happens in the real world. That's the quintessential of meeting people at a bar or club or a concert or what have you. But it's never ever something I've been good at. Not even still now. It's not easy for me. It's easier at cons, and I think the big reason for that is when you're meeting somebody for the first time, a cold approach or anything like that, you have absolutely no idea who this person is. You might have an inkling if they have something about them that tells, and you may be wrong about that. You might decide that yes, you like this person, you want to try and get to know them because they're attractive or what have you. But you are going up to what is essentially a complete mystery. You have absolutely no idea if you're ever if it's bad, good, doesn't matter, because for all you know, they could be a serial murderer. But at a con, every single attendee at that con, you already have built-in familiarities with.
If nothing else, you're all fans of the same convention.
Right. It's like you already have, not quite an icebreaker, but you already have, they are known quantity. Not a fully known quantity.
You have some variance of in.
Yeah.
That's the reason why when you go to like a con like Dragon Con or a con like, Zenkai Con or a con like, like even like everything, I keep hearing these stories of cons that I haven't gotten to, like BlizzCon and PAX, where people just sit down and start talking to each other. It's getting completely organically, because the usual barriers of, I don't know if you're into things that I like, is significantly lowered. The barrier to entry of talking to people, which is why
even if you're not into the same fandoms, the way you're at that con, you might end up with a new fandom.
Right. The thing about it is
which
that
has happened. Didn't personally see it, but it happened to my best friend Laura. It's funny, it happened again, but she discovered Doctor Who at Anime Boston and made an entirely new circle of friends that ultimately culminated in her current boyfriend, who is awesome, by the way.
Well, thing is that, of course,
so she was never really a Doctor Who fan before this. So, yeah, you might meet somebody at a con and share absolutely zero similar fan interests, but because you are both fans, you could go and you would mix. And even if you don't walk away a fan of what they're a fan of, or them a fan of what you're a fan of, you are still able to connect on a level you cannot do in daily life generally.
Just because the risk situation. I mean, the idea is that you already have one barrier of.
Oh, you've at least, I'd say more than one barrier.
Yeah. Well, no,
several barriers are down already for everybody.
It's usually a major barrier, because what's funny is that a lot of people who are like, I'm very, very introverted and I don't do well in crowds, a lot of times they talk about, like, they'll, on the like, say for Dragon Con, there's a lot of people who will go to think, I'm kind of introverted, I'm not really good at crowds, I'm not really good at, dealing with large groups of people that I don't know. Can I function at Dragon Con? And the general response is, you will find a level that you can function with.
Yeah.
But at Dragon Con, you will find that people are remarkably friendly, and therefore, you don't have to worry as much about all the things that make you shy.
It's like, if it's just the social anxieties that you have to worry about. Like, if you don't have that, like, people who actually, if they're in a large cloud, they will have a panic attack.
Right.
You are going to have trouble at Dragon Con. It's horrible. I wish there was a way you could go. And you may be able to, depending on the person. But it's like, unless you're suffering with something like that is literally out of your conscious control, you can do it. You definitely can do it.
And the thing is that, the other cons, I mean, I've seen so many people at, like, the smaller, like, the like Zenkai Con, like LunaCon, and other conventions that I've gone to.
BronyCon the first time.
BronyCon, I've gotten to those furry conventions. I've been to a bunch of them. And I will say that the thing about it is that people who are normally have no way of connecting with people in the real world find themselves more at ease with connecting in convention space. So that's one of the things that is important in fandom, is that we encourage that.
And leaving that environment
is very, very can be there's a kind of like the cold water bracing this cold water being thrown over you, because then you're back in an environment where you have to put those filters up.
You have to reapply all of your walls, all of your filters, everything that you keep in a daily life that you've just let fall to the wayside for the past, 2 to 4 days.
Exactly.
Depending on how long your con is.
And the other thing was that, this past year we did the con, we were at the hotel almost a full week. And the thing about that is that the post-con, if in the last video or in whatever video is before this one, probably because that one will have the videos from when we took video in the hotel after the crowds had gone. That kind of weird, very, very creepy side. The creepy quiet of that gigantic hotel.
Do you know all those things that show up on Facebook, and it's, here's all these famous places. Here's them before, when they were new, with people. Here's them now, dilapidated and empty. It's like that.
It's just very, very weird. It's not so much creepy, it's just weird. Because, especially for us, because I'd been going to Dragon Con for years, and I had always left while everyone else was leaving.
Right.
So this is the first time that I got to personally experience the after effect of going after all the crowds had gone, and we were able to get an elevator and a bellhop like that, and got our stuff.
Goodness! Like, it was Monday when I got the I had to get the picture signed by Steam Power Giraffe.
Right.
I was literally able to go from one of the lobbies up to our room and back down within minutes. This is not possible during con.
Yeah. When you're trying to do that and the convention's actually running, and that's just not what happens.
Up is down, down is up. If an elevator opens for you, get on it.
Yes, that's generally, no matter how much people complain about the behavior, is not something you can change, because the problem is people are not going to wait for 14 elevators to go up that are, it's part of con
most
culture
people
now.
most people accept it as part of con culture. There are still people who get annoyed.
It's annoying.
But it's like, come on, dude.
It's
Seriously.
It's an
We're
annoying.
going to ride the elevator down, then up. More people get on. You'll get off at your destination. Why do you care?
It doesn't, it doesn't really. I find it hilarious that people get upset about it. Generally, the one thing I noticed this year, which was interesting in retrospect, was that this year I saw more people trying to help people in wheelchairs and scooters than in previous years. Now, I've heard the horror stories, and I personally witnessed a couple of times where we had to step in and make sure that we could get these people on the elevators that they were trying to go to. But truthfully, I mean, like, this year was pretty on point comparatively, because there was a couple of years where literally people were stranded on a floor for 45 minutes to an hour sometimes,
just trying to get an
elevator. And this year people were like willing to got out of elevators for let the people on. It was surprisingly a much more low key year, which actually made it worse to come home to, because then it's like, it was really, I came home and I was just like,
everyone's so nice, it's great, we're looking out for each other, and then we come back home and it's like, oh great, everyone's an asshole again.
And let's be honest, one of the other things about conventions is that conventions are a time where people willingly, and often forcibly, and sometimes unwillingly, put politics and religion and all the social problems of the world aside, because the idea is that we're the common interest here, the common interests. We don't care about your political bents. We don't care about. We need to escape. Very, very much escapism is the escapism from the current crises across the planet, and coming back from that, you come back and you're like, this again.
Yeah, this year, unfortunately, like, we met a few people who are actually from Houston that got out right before Harvey hit, and they're like, we can worry about it and everything right now, but really,
we're here for the con.
We're here for the con. We'll be here. We'll relax. We'll enjoy it, and then we'll go back and deal with it. It's like, we got out in time. We're glad. We're just going to relax and take it, and then we'll go back and deal with it.
Yeah, a couple of people came back, and a couple of people were talking about the fact that they're like, our house is still standing. It hasn't blown away. We'll deal with the wreckage when we get home.
Right.
And when Katrina hit, it was much the same thing. I mean, people were just, there was that moment of escapism where people were just they needed it. They really, really, really needed it, because that post-con depression of coming back to reality is some harsh reality.
It's one thing coming back to your everyday reality. It's another day coming back to your reality after it's been hit by a natural disaster.
Yes, exactly. And for those people, we cannot begin to sympathize enough. We offer our deepest condolences for everything that they've had to go through. But the thing that makes the convention worth it for them is the camaraderie, is the fact that they know that people will...
They are among friends, they are among family. Everyone knew about Harvey. I'm sure there are other people who've been hit by, the hurricane. So it's like, it's not like they were going there and having to completely push it out. It's like, I'm sure it came up. I'm sure they talked about it here or there. And they probably got people's sympathies, or, familiarized with people who also had to deal with, like, yeah, we got out too. And, it's...
We were in the...
You were together.
We were in the hotel pool with a couple people who were just escaped.
Yeah.
They literally had just escaped Harvey, and they were not worried about their property. They were worried about the fact they were going to making sure they would escape Harvey.
Right. To make sure they get out before it really hit.
Before they couldn't get out at all. And they were not worried about their stuff, but they were worried about the fact that they weren't going to be able to. They were actually worried about being able to get home, because. I remember that they were flying. They were hoping the airports were still there. They were commenting they were hoping the airports were still there, and they hadn't scraped off the... And that's one of the things that, you have to remember when you do a convention is expect that if you're going to have a good time, coming back to the real world is not going to be as much fun.
At the best of times, it's not that fun.
I mean, I've had some post-con depression that was really, really bad. It really is kind of an inverse of how much it's the major high with the major crash. Mm-hmm. And I've had years where it didn't hit that badly, mostly because I was focused on something. There was something else that I was focused on, for some people, the energy, they keep riding that high by riding all the creativity that comes with it. I mean, there are people who are dealing with their post-con depression by burying themselves in the next cosplay project or their next,
they saw something there and like, I want to do something like that. And so when they leave, like their thoughts are on doing that. And so by the time that post-con depression would hit, they're already revved up for something else, so it doesn't really hit them.
And that's generally a good way of if you've gone to a con and you find yourself coming home from cons and feeling very, very bummed out by the real world, throw yourself into a project. Throw yourself, plan the next con. I mean, granted, it's rampant.
Plan a YouTube channel.
Yeah, plan a YouTube channel. What do you think we're doing? This is being recorded about almost a month out from about 3 weeks to a month, depending on how you look at it. And we're still we still haven't completely unpacked.
No, you haven't.
Well, I had more shit than you did. But the thing is that we got back into doing the videos. Had to edit,
find editing,
fix editing, making everything not explode.
Yell at recording software that makes you record again.
Oh my goodness gracious. And the thing is that's what that's our suggestion. Our big suggestion is if you've gone to a con or if you're going to go to a con and you're going to go to a big con or your first con and you think you're going, you've heard about post-con depression, PCD, and you want to avoid it. The best thing I can tell you is that there's always another con, there's always another year. There's always a project you can work on for the next con. I think personally that's why so many people cosplay. It's because eventually
it keeps the depression at bay.
Well, partly it's the thing is that it focuses all of that mentality on the next event. And you can ride the high, and believe me, there have been some years where I have come back so pumped to work on projects. And I have. And sometimes I have, sometimes I haven't. But I've driven back from DragonCon, from LunaCon, working on what's the next plan going to be? What's the next, what can I do that was better what can we do differently, or what didn't work this year? It's always an analysis. And sometimes that actually is good because it takes it sets your mind at the goal of not thinking about the fact that, yes, the world you're living in sucks right now. Yes, there's lots of turmoil. Yes, there's lots of boring people out there, and boy, are there ever. But it actually gets you into the mindset of, I can work on something else. I can plan for another con. I can plan to do something else for this. I can plan to try and do another different con. Let me see a different crowd of people. It is amazing that in a crowd of 82,000 people, I can still run into the same 8 or 9 people every
and you always will.
Year.
It's one of the weirdest things. You'll run into you'll see the same person every day. Like twice, 3 times a day. And then you'll go online after the con and you'll see 10 million different cosplays. Like, I saw none of that. Where was it?
Yeah, that's the weirdest. That is one of the weirdest post-con things that I've noticed, especially with DragonCon, is the fact that I have actually seen pictures where I am in the shot and I see cosplays and I'm going, how did I not see this? There's actually a picture that I saw in someone's thing and I'm like, there I am with my hat. And I was pointed in the other direction, and they were taking a picture of somebody, and I'm going, I did not see that cosplay. And I think it's just the fact that after a while your brain just kind of seizes. Like, you start seeing the really, really, either the really, really recognizable or the really, really elaborate.
Yeah.
And all the interim stuff starts to blend together. And the other thing was that like it's so weird because the other side of, and this is my personal suggestion to anyone who wants to do a bigger convention, like you want to do a Comic-Con or a DragonCon or something like that, make a vacation of it.
Yes.
Seriously. Cobble together the money, stay extra days.
Stay like longer. A day before, a day after. If the hotel has a pool, get there, take the pool.
Yes.
Then do the con. When the con's over,
that
hit
was
the pool, then go home.
That was a first time experience was for us this year. Was I have been to Dragon Con since every year since 2004. This is the first time I've ever actually gone to a hotel pool. Ever. And we went to the pool multiple times.
Well, once when we went, and once when we got there, and once before we left.
Well, the thing is,
you went more, I think.
Yeah, I went one other time. And the thing was that we got to use the hot tub, and we got to relax, and we got to actually.
Yeah, don't try and use the hot tub during the con.
Yeah,
you will not get in the hot tub.
The other thing about it is that like the problem with trying to do, I mean, this is one of the other things that when you take stock of like all the things you wanted to do, and you go. I've come back from cons going, there was so much I wanted to do and I didn't get to do. And then I think about it, but I did so much. So the other side is you can't turn around and you can't berate yourself for missing that one panel you really, really wanted to go to. Because odds are, unless something actually happens to you, it's so easy to be distracted. And it doesn't matter. It does not have to be Dragon Con. It can be a 3,000 person, any 3,000 person convention. You can get distracted taking pictures of cosplays. You can get distracted with, someone's presentation, a panel you walk past that you hear something interesting that diverts you from what you're. That's why when people start trying to ultra plan what they're going to do at a con,
it's just exhausting to think about.
I always am.
I mean, if they can do it, more power to them. But
I'm amazed. I'm genuinely amazed by people who actually can schedule out all their panels for a convention and then actually go to them. Because part of me feels like you're missing the experience in the process.
Well.
I guess it's the experience.
They're missing your experience.
Yeah, they're missing. But the thing is,
but unless they're like miserable the whole time, they're not missing their experience.
It seems like such a focused thing.
Some people are like that.
I know, it's weird. I personally find it so odd.
I'll never be like that.
No, I can't. I think
my avatar is a ferret, so yeah, I will never be like that. Yes. I know this. I accept this. I make this part of me.
The ADHD and the ADHD, which is never going to go away, is just doesn't allow me to do that. I am literally like, oh my god, 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 oh my god,
shiny.
Yeah, so I'm chasing the shinies. And one thing that I came back from this con, I also came back from this con, relatively, I wasn't physically trashed like I usually. And we took it easy this year, but even that, I mean, driving home from my mom's, I was still kind of I was like, oh my god.
After con, 4-hour drive feels more like 8.
Yeah, it does. It's amazing how exhausting that that was partly the fact of everyone had pushed themselves to their limits, and then the people we brought with us, some of them had been, this was their first big con, and they were wrecked. They were wrecked as soon as we drove away from the hotel. We usually stop at like a Cracker Barrel or something on the way, and they were fine until we got back in the car,
and
they all napped. And I'm like, it's so nice to be able to do that, to be able to sit and nap during my drive back, and it was actually,
it really wasn't that bad of a drive, but it really is just being so exhausted from the con. Yeah, we slept before we left Virginia, but
the other things this year the thing was we did not have the it wasn't as painful to drive back from the hotels like it was the previous year, because that extra day, being able to sleep the night before you leave the con,
able to go to completely sleep, full night's rest before going to drive, and not having to fight with everybody to get down the elevators makes a huge difference. We cannot emphasize much how much of a difference it makes.
But when we got home, I mean, even under the best of circumstances, we got home, and I don't think we touched. You unpacked immediately because you pack light.
All I did was usually just throw my laundry in the laundry basket.
Exactly. I'll
sort the rest of this crap tomorrow.
For the rest of the stuff that we brought from home from the con, I mean, that stuff sat in the dining room for days, because it's just the fact of I don't even want to deal with the fact that we're home again, and I don't want to have to deal with the fact. I mean, and I went back. I actually had a couple of days. I got back a couple of days before I started working again, and that was not that my job is the type of job that's so soul-sucking that I'm I got to tell people, I'm oh yeah, I went to the con, I did all these things, I proposed to my husband, my future husband anyway, my fiance, and they're all excited, and I got pictures and video and stuff, and that kind of made me feel better, but it's then part of me is sitting there going and now the next con begins. And now the Dragon Con, the inexorable, the inexorable trek to Dragon Con in 2018.
The shelter games starting.
As of this thing, about 10, 11 days from now. So that's the next. That is the singular most stressful part of the whole trip for me.
Getting the hotel rooms.
Once I've gotten the hotel rooms, I sleep like a baby until the con. Comparatively, because the thing is that then that becomes the thing of I'm starting to shake up people by their ankles till coins fall out so that I can get money for the convention, but that's much easier to do than getting those hotel rooms. What we want to explain here is that what we want to discuss is what we wanted to discuss rather is that. If you come back from a con and you feel miserable...
That's normal, for one.
It's normal. Reach out to people, find friends from the convention, commiserate, bask in the glory that was the convention for you, assuming you had a good time, which usually makes it the con depression, the post-con depression, the post-con crash worse.
But immediately put all of your swag away.
Yeah, don't put your
don't put it deep away. Like have it where you can see it. If you got a new figure or something, swap out one of your old ones with it so it's up front.
Yeah, it's like don't.
If you got a comic book or something from the artist alleys, start reading the books.
The hat I'm currently wearing is the one that I got this year at the convention. The same
here.
He's got there, and this hat is like one of the most comfortable hats. My goodness, this is the second hat I've gotten from the same place, the Steampunk Hatters, and
I still think I have not worn a fez to work yet. I'm wondering if I can get away with that.
Well, on the plus side,
Friday, obviously.
Yeah, on Friday. No, I'm thinking if you're going to do that, on the plus side, if you did, it would be easy to fold up if they're like, nope, can't get away with that. Don't do that. I can wear my hat to work. Nobody cares.
I don't wear my hat while I'm at work, but
right. But I can wear my hat to work at work. They don't care. As long as I'm there and as long as I take care of customers, they don't really care. Which is great actually.
Yeah,
makes the post con dealing with so much fun. And I know that I spent a fair amount of time reading about the events that I missed or things that happened during the convention. I think one of the future, if not next one, we're gonna describe is we've talked about the post con depression. We've talked about the after effects. What to do when shit goes wrong at your con? When you're
often well.
Yeah,
not always, but often well.
It's like things can go bad. Things you can have bad con experiences, and I've had bad con experiences. Mm-hmm. What to do when your con sucks? Oh yeah, I have to tell them that we can piece together as part of the what bad con experiences, how to cope with them. How not to let them affect everything else that you do, because goodness gracious, that almost happened to me.
Yeah.
And how to find a good con. That's actually a fairly.
Most bad cons are not Dash Con, so you don't have to be afraid of that happening to you.
Which is probably for the best. That's for the best of the convention industry. Because we don't want more.
And we had two fairly bad cons, and not cons we went to, but that we heard of. Was like Los Pegasus and Dash Con. Like they were bad for different reasons, but it's like there will be things like that, but they are not common.
Yeah. Bad cash grabs, cash grabs. Oh my goodness gracious. Scam cons.
Or just people running a con who haven't really done it before and only sort of or don't really know what they're doing. They're earnest, but they're just not good.
Yeah, those are concerns indeed. But that's topic for a different time. I think we're going to wrap this one up tonight. Mm-hmm. And we will look forward to talking to you guys again. And
later.
See ya.